know are going to divide people before I even bring them up. This is one of those opinions, maybe, I don't know. So let me get this out of the way right at the beginning. This is not a criticism of Wilco. They are probably my favorite band on the planet. And it's not a criticism of Nels Cline, the amazing guitarist. I absolutely love this band. I think they're one of the greatest American rock bands of the last 30 years. And Nels Cline is one of the most extraordinary guitar players alive. His creativity, his improvisation, his willingness to push songs is a huge part of what makes Wilco such a compelling live band. But every time I see them perform, I come away asking the same question. Wilco, what is wrong with you? Because standing just across the stage from Nels is another incredible musician who rarely gets to show the full extent of what he can do. And I'm talking about Pat Sansone. I honestly believe he's one of the most underutilized secret weapons in all of alternative rock. Now, Pat joined Wilco in 2004 after Leroy Bach left the band, and over the past 2 decades or so, he's become the definition of indispensable. He's one of those musicians that every band dreams of having. He can play guitar, he plays keyboards a lot. I'll get into that. Bass and percussion, and just like anything else you put in front of him, he sings beautiful harmonies. He produces records. He produced The Whole Love for them, and somehow manages to make every song sound fuller without really demanding attention. If you didn't know any better, you'd assume that someone with that many talents would be featured consistently. Instead, he often seems to disappear into the background, but I'm behind the keyboards all the time. I'm just saying. He switches between instruments while the spotlight stays somewhere else, and that's okay. That's not because he lacks the ability. It's because Wilco has chosen to use him primarily as their musical Swiss Army knife, rather than letting him become one of the band's featured performers. Funny thing is, if your only exposure to Pat Sansone is Wilco, you really don't know Pat Sansone. To understand why I feel so strongly about this, you have to spend some time with the Autumn Defense. If you've never heard them, do yourself a favor and fix that. The songwriting is great. The harmonies are pretty great. The arrangements are sophisticated without ever feeling overly complicated, and Pat's guitar playing is absolutely first rate. Listening to those records makes one thing pretty clear. This isn't a guy who's capable of playing a little guitar when necessary. He's a legitimate guitarist with taste, instincts, and a sense of restraint. He knows exactly what a song needs. More importantly, he knows what it doesn't need. And that's a gift you really can't be taught. One of the things I admire most about his playing is that he never seems interested in showing off. I take that back. When he's on stage, he likes to show off, but when he's recording, he does not, it feels like. We live in a world where social media has convinced every guitarist that every solo needs to be faster or louder or more impressive than the last one. He doesn't play that game. His solos have melody. His fills serve the song. I think his guitar fills are the best part of his catalog. His tone is warm and expressive. Every note feels like it is meant to be there. It reminds me of those classic sessions players from the late 60s and the 70s who could walk into any recording session, elevate every song, and then just quietly leave. That's an incredibly rare skill. And ironically, I think that's part of the problem because he's so selfless as a musician. Wilco almost takes that selflessness for granted. Now let's talk about the elephant in the room, because I know exactly what a lot of you are probably thinking, but they already have Nels Cline. Before that, they had Jay Bennett. And yes, they do. Nels is a brilliant, Impossible Germany. I've heard it played probably 10 times live, and every time was different, and every time was wonderful. It remains one of the greatest live guitar showcases of this century. Watching him improvise is like watching someone paint a masterpiece in real time. That's just a fact. He's fearless. He's unpredictable, completely original. I wouldn't change anything about what Nels brings to Wilco. Here's my question. Why does that automatically mean Pat has to remain the supporting guy? Why can't both things be true? Why can't Nels continue to be experimental genius while Pat gets more opportunities to step forward with his own rootsy style? Those two approaches don't compete with each other. I think they complement each other if they can make it work. In fact, I think that's exactly what makes this so frustrating for me. Pat and Nels don't occupy the same musical space, if you know what I'm saying. Nels, he approaches the guitar like an abstract painter. He's willing to explore texture and surprise. Pat is more like a songwriter. He's looking for melodies that people remember long after the song ends. Instead, it often feels like Wilco reaches every guitar climax by saying, "Okay, Nels, take it away." And then Pat kind of steps into the background, into the scenery. Imagine what would happen if every few songs, the roles were reversed. Imagine hearing Pat take the lead while Nels colored around him. I honestly think this band would become even more interesting as interesting as they already are. Another thing that doesn't get discussed nearly enough is Pat Sansone's stage presence. And that's just my wife's favorite thing about them. Watch any live Wilco performance from a while back. They don't do it so much now. And keep your eyes on Pat Sansone for a little while instead of automatically going towards Jeff or Nels. He's animated. He interacts with the audience. He does windmills and does the machine gun and he does all the rock moves. He's a guy who knows all the rock moves. So that's just how it is. He genuinely looks like he's having the time of his life, and has the kind of natural charisma that draws your attention even when he's not, the featured player in Wilco. And as incredible as they are, they can sometimes present themselves with a certain reserved professionalism. The dad rock thing, we all know that. And that's kind of part of their identity, and there's nothing wrong with that. Pat has this energy, and it feels more spontaneous. I'd love to see the band lean into that, at least live. Do what you want on the records, but live, if I'm paying $30 to $50 for a ticket on the lawn, I want to see a show. Let them roam the stage more. Let them trade guitar licks with Nels. Let those two push each other in real time. Those moments, I think they create memories for audiences, and I think Wilco leaves some of that potential on the table. Now, the one album that gave me a little bit of hope recently was Cruel Country, which I took a while for me to like that one a lot, but I do. On that record, you can hear more of Pat's fingerprint all over the guitar work, especially with his guitar fills more than anything. Not so much the solos. It brought a warmth and a classic country influence that perfectly fit the material. There were moments where it felt like Wilco was finally recognizing just how much they had sitting right there in the band. Listening to those songs, I remember thinking, that's it. That's what I've been waiting for. It wasn't about replacing anyone. It was about expanding the band's musical vocabulary. Pat sounded confident, he sounded expressive, and completely at home. For a while, it felt like Wilco had opened a new creative door. And then, at least from my perspective, they went away from it again. Now, I think part of this comes down to just the role that Pat naturally accepts. He's just glad to be in the band, I guess. Every great band has that one musician who's willing to do whatever the song needs. And they move from guitar to keyboards to tambourine without even complaining because they just genuinely care about making the music better. And he seems perfectly comfortable being that guy. And maybe that's how he wants it. Maybe he has no desire to be a featured soloist every night. Maybe Jeff Tweedy has talked with him about this, and they're both perfectly happy with the arrangement. I don't know if those conversations took place, but as fans, I think we're allowed to dream a little. We're allowed to imagine what this band might sound like if they occasionally gave Pat the spotlight, but he is more than earned. The comparisons that always come to mind for me is baseball, okay? Follow me here. Imagine having an all-star sitting on your bench every game. Sure, he contributes. He pinch hits. He plays multiple positions. He's valuable every single night. But once in a while, you can't help wondering what would happen if you just let him swing for the fences every night and just see what happens. That's how Pat Sansone feels to me. Wilco already benefits enormously from everything he brings. They can't shake the feeling that they're only using him like 70% of what he's capable of. The rest stays kind of tucked away because the band doesn't seem interested in building songs or live arrangements that truly allow him to shine. And again, they might have talked about this and that might be okay with him. The irony is that this isn't really a complaint. It's actually kind of a compliment. You don't do like me and make a video like this about someone who's average, okay? Nobody argues that a mediocre musician deserves a bigger spotlight. The only reason this conversation exists is because Pat Sansone is so incredibly talented that you can't help but want more. I want more guitar. I want more vocals. I want more interaction with Nels and Jeff. I want more of the stage presence. Like I said, he's got all the rock god moves. I just can't help imagining what another version of Wilco might look like. A version where Pat Sansone isn't just one of the utility players, but one of the featured attractions. Because when I watch him perform, I don't see someone who's simply filling a role. I see one of the most tasteful and underrated musicians in modern rock, standing just off to the side. He's right over there, guys. He's waiting for one more opportunity to remind everyone how great he really is. I wish Wilco would, at some point, put out their version of REM's Accelerate. If you remember, REM was kind of in the weeds for a little bit and then came out with the album Accelerate just to show that they could rock. I wish Wilco would do that. Just make a stupid rock record and then go back to your artsy stuff. I'd be okay with that. And that's why I keep asking, the same question every time I watch Wilco play live. What's wrong with you guys? You've already got one of the best secret weapons in rock music standing right over there. Let the man play. That's all I got for this one. Not a deep dive, not an album ranking, more just a question. And, let me know in the comments what you think. Make sure to like, subscribe, those things. There's things called hype points. I don't even know what they are, but they help, I guess. Maybe one of those. I'd be really okay with that. So next time, be kind and rewind, and I'll see you on the next one.